what is mentorship? Because you did mention that your mom was in the space. So, you were quite fortunate that you had supportive parents. You were quite fortunate.
Well, I wouldn't
that you
say
had a mother.
they weren't supportive. They definitely gave me an example. I would not say they're supportive. There's a big gap between those two, right?
But did you say your mother was a speaker or so?
No, so she was an entrepreneur who we were in regional Queensland 25 years ago. So the only way to grow a business was to speak.
Well,
right? Whether it was a Chamber of Commerce or a conference. I didn't realize how much that influenced me.
There you go. So the reason why I'm saying that is some people have grown up in a home where they were never exposed to anything like that. Their reality is go to work, 9 to 5 kind of job, come back, repeat. But
No, I didn't grow up in that world. So I was 23 before that world was a world, right? So my mother went into business because she had to. I didn't grow up with people speaking. I didn't grow up with people who are entrepreneurs. My grandfather was an entrepreneur, but I was close to him, but not really exposed to it. So no, I didn't grow up with that being, I was not surrounded by it at all.
Right, there you go.
At all. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Now tell me, you've probably had mentors all through your journey.
Really important.
Which is quite amazing. I can't stress how important having a mentor is, like you being a mentor in the speaking. If it's like when I say to people that, if there's something wrong with your car, you take it to a mechanic. Most especially if it's a very expensive car, one of those European cars, you because you don't want to mess it up, you take it to a mechanic. If you want to get better at speaking, it just makes sense going to someone like Jacqueline Brooker that has walked the path you're hoping to walk through, that can shorten that process for you rather than you trying to figure it out. Now, what has mentorship done for you through your journey, and what are some of the things that have stuck with you that you were able to, borrow or learn from a mentor or a previous mentor that you had?
It's been a long journey. So, because I'm in my early 50s now. The first mentor that I actually had was Andrew Banks, who some people will know from. He's an investor on some of the series of Shark Tank.
Yep.
He was my first mentor.
Well,
I was working in his business, right? And there were hundreds of us, but we all felt like we got mentored by Andrew, right? And so he role modeled as much as he mentored, and he set very big standards. And that was my foundation. So that was really strong. And what I took from them was to be unapologetic about being the best, right? It was a company that it doesn't exist anymore, but we were the best, we were the elite, and we were unapologetic about it, right? But it was also about you had to back it up. So if you're going to be the best, you couldn't just say you were the best, you actually had to be the best. So high standards, unapologetic about it, don't compromise for the wrong reasons. And he actually taught me about mentorship, because in that business, like he ran the business, he mentored all what they call the rookies, so the people new in. But then I also worked alongside 2 consultants who literally mentored with every breath they took. Like they'd spin around in their chair and you would learn something, right? It was a really rich coaching, mentoring based environment. And I carried that through as much as I could when I went back to the family business and things like that. The next incredible mentor was a man by the name of John. And John was who I learned industrial relations negotiating from. And so he was actually our industrial relations advisor in our labor hire company, which was a multi-8-figure company. And we lost a case, which was the first time we'd lost in a decade. And so I got really curious. So one Friday afternoon, his office was in the same building as ours. So I went downstairs. I knew he loved red wine. Took a bottle of red wine down, and I sat down in his office, and I got him to explain to me why he thought we'd lost that particular case. And I was just fascinated. And the more I asked questions, the more he responded. And so that turned into a weekly thing. Every Friday afternoon, if we were both in town, I would grab a bottle of red wine, I'd go down and share it with him, and we would just talk until the wine ran out, and he would just teach me everything he knew, right? So that was, both my first 2 mentors weren't like an official mentor-coach relationship. It was just what they did. And then from there was a series of mentors. But what I learned from both of those was Andrew And John was the same. Andrew would walk into this Friday afternoon session that happened frequently in the Melbourne office. I was in Melbourne at that stage. And he didn't want to know your wins. They were on the reports. He didn't want to know your successes. They were on the reports. He wanted to know what had gone wrong, what had gone not to plan, what did you unexpectedly lost, what was confusing you. That were the things he wanted to know from you. And then when he responded to that, he would respond with his own war story to give the insight of what to do differently next time. It wasn't theoretical. It wasn't, and he was vulnerable before the word vulnerability was a thing. And it wasn't vulnerable as in I lay my heart on the floor. It was like, okay, when that happened for me, this was the scenario that happened for me. And so he would put himself right inside you, right beside you with a shared experience. And that was so powerful because we all learned from that. So he was this guy that was absolutely on a pedestal from like entrepreneurship, all that sort of stuff. But he was never out of reach for any of us if we were being honest about what we were bringing to the table. And then he would not share what you should do. He would share where he had made the same mistake and then what he did now as a result of learning from that mistake. And that was huge. And I've taken that into, this is how I run my whole business now.
So that's quite powerful. This is really, really good advice, good recommendations you're giving all the viewers here. You know, I was even just thinking here, for those people listening here that are thinking of, you know, getting a mentor that would help them to become a speaker or to become a great speaker, or not even just to get better at speaking, what sort of things should they be looking out to be able to select the right mentor for them?
Yeah, I actually just did a podcast riffing about this completely because I'm quite annoyed at the moment about the speaker coaching industry. So I just riffed an entire podcast episode about it. But having said that, the biggest thing that I would say is make sure whoever you're doing this with actually has experience getting results for others. So a lot of people who are established speakers themselves have coaching programs running, and they are not great at coaching others. They're great at what they've done themselves, but you need to make sure that whoever you're looking at, and there's about 7 or 8 things that I talked about in the podcast, but the number one thing is, have they actually been able to coach and train other people to get results, right? Look beyond their own success story for the success stories of others that they've been instrumental, not just stood beside, but been instrumental is the most important thing. The other thing is it's really important that it's not just about, so there are some coaches that run programs that you on a stage of their own, and it's about getting your collateral and getting footage, and I get that. But you've got to ask, well, what happened for them after that stage, right? So we can say after our stage, this person picked up $30,000 worth of engagements. This person picked up the biggest contract of their career. This person, coaching revenue, he exceeded 10-year financial targets, right? So what has happened to someone after the program, right? So yes, it's great that they can speak. And yes, it's great that they get on stage that you provide as like the graduation, but what happens as a result of that? Because too many speaking coaches out there are just teaching you to tell your story. And teaching you to tell your story is the last of it, right?